Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another indie horror filmmaker interview with a non-stranger to the channel, Joshua Pangborn.
Hello.
Welcome back.
I'm so happy to be here, as always. I love dropping by and checking out the mausoleum whenever I can. So
yeah, we love having you here. It's always a great time. Always a good conversation. We laugh a lot. So it's always inspiring. I love it. Always welcome here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. So we've talked about plenty of things in the past, but tonight specifically, we are going to be talking about your upcoming film, The Contract.
Yes. I'm very excited to talk about this because this is the first place I'm really talking about it. So you have the exclusive. So.
Oh, I love it. I'm here for it. That's good for me. I love it. So I kind of have it in a backdrop. I will have added it in magically over here somewhere in between post edit. And I want to talk about this poster briefly before we jump into some detailed stuff because I love the way this looks. This like drawn anime. I don't know how to put it, but I love the way this is done.
It's the same person who did the poster for my other movie, The Brooklyn Butcher.
The Butcher.
And it's a really he does this minimalist style, like evocative of like the 70s horror kind of movies, like
Yes.
So very much I did not know what I wanted when I gave him the script. I said, "Here, read the script and tell me what you come up with." And this is what he came up with. And I tweaked a few things here or there, but I love it so much. It really, I think, encapsulates the film nicely. So
yeah, and I always talk about how like horror is always black and red, but this is a perfect example of why, because it's stunning. It's perfectly balanced, the color. I don't know. Like when you sent it to me and I was looking at it in the bigger, on a bigger screen, I was like, "Oh man, like I love it. It looks great."
It really does. Like I didn't know what I was going to get when he sent it to me, and I opened it and I'm like, "Oh, of course, this is it. This is perfect. This
Did
is
you have to tweak
exactly
it, or
what I
you were
wanted."
just like first image done?
I tweaked a
You
few
did say there was
small
like
things,
minor things. Yeah.
a few very minor things, like the windows. He had one person in the window, but I asked for the person in the manacles to be in the window, and I asked for the figure who's in the front, staring up at the building, to be a little bit more pronounced because it was a little too blended into the background.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wanted a little bit more. So he added this. He added some lighting to it and everything. And so it's but very minor things, like everything that he did.
So
He pretty much
pretty.
got right off the bat. And everyone who knows me knows that purple is my color. So red is not really something I do, despite the fact that
Yeah.
I have red hair and the shirt is red-ish elements to it. Normally it's purple. So so for me, I was like, oh, red. Oh, red. This is perfect. This is
It
fantastic.
looks so good. It's very, very well balanced. I love it. And I think it's great too, because when you're looking at it and you're looking at the person in the front, it's drawing your vision kind of like up, like you're looking up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm very impressed with the poster. I absolutely love it.
I love it. It's everything I could possibly have wanted from. I can't imagine doing another poster now. I probably will have another poster for variations, but this is it. I mean, so
No, it's gorgeous.
I love how like the trees are on the side and it blocks everything and sort of like
creeps like a frame.
Yeah, it's I love it so much.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So The Contract, tell us what this story is about and kind of, I guess, like a synopsis or whatever you want to share about it.
Well, I guess I'm curious first, since what do you get from the poster? What do you think it's about from the poster?
From the poster? I want to get it right. Let me think about it. But you're super creative, so I probably won't get it right. That's okay.
Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. So.
I mean, I think I'm having a hard time blocking out the title and just focusing on the image. So I immediately get like slasher hitman vibes.
Okay.
If I'm staring at it a little bit longer. Yeah, that's what keeps coming to me.
Interesting. I see that that when you say contract killer, you're thinking.
Immediately, but I think it's probably because I knew the name before I saw the poster, so that's what's always good. I probably just can't ignore that and like focus on. But it kind of reminds me of one of your shorts in your collection.
And it should, because
Was it the one where they go to the okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned when I talked about my book,
Yeah.
all of the stories in my collection are things I'm going to film someday, and so this is the first story I'm filming from the collection. I wanted to. All of those stories were scripts or some kind of script or in
Right.
some way, shape, or form. And I happened to finish this script after I finished the book because I was ready to start filming this. So this
Yeah.
is the first. Not all of them will be features, but this is a feature film that came out of a short story from the book that I have. So,
But it's not, is it got a different title?
yeah, in the book, it's
Okay.
under contract.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy. No, I was sitting here looking at it as we were in literally you got to see that process live because I was literally thinking, I was like, you know what it kind of reminds me of. So I got there.
And it should. So bravo. No, so the contract is a story about the quest for love, and all the ways that doesn't go right for somebody who thinks he found love in a BDSM relationship. So
Okay.
as one does. Not to say all BDSM relationships can't be found loving and mutually
Oh, sure.
respectful,
No, yeah.
but this particular one is not a happy ending for some
Sure.
people involved, possibly, or it could be a happy ending. We'll see. You never know. You'll have to watch it and find out.
That's true.
But the idea behind the story is very, very, very succinctly, as much as I can be. I'm not known for my succinctness, so. But the idea behind the story is it's about a man named Oliver who is lonely and meets someone on the internet who says, "Hey, you could be perfect for me. Come out to my my woods estate and a state in the middle of nowhere and see if you want to fall in love with me and sign a contract and be my submissive." And well, I mean, that sounds like it's a good time, so why not go and do that, right? So
Yeah.
that's what happens, and nothing goes wrong in a forest estate. So
No. Or with meeting people on the internet.
exactly, it's all things that just are all normal, safe, wonderful things to do,
Yes.
and it just happens to go wrong for some reason. I don't know how it could,
That's so
but
strange. Yeah.
but I describe it as a very lengthy amount of adjectives, basically. So I describe it as it's a psychological body horror. It's a Faustian deal kind of story.
Okay.
It's Dracula meets Child's Play meets something you've never ever heard of before. So it's a lot of those things. If any of those buzzwords are interesting to you, then keep listening. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I think like one of the things and I know I mention this every time we talk, but for anybody who's new who hasn't heard us chat about anything before, the reason that we even connected was through your writing, right? So I'm
Mhm.
always drawn to your storytelling because I think you're just very great at creating or taking something semi familiar and then just like shredding it and redoing it. So you get that little bit of comfort going in and then you're like, oh no, this is not what I thought, that kind of thing. And so it makes me very intrigued knowing what I know of the short story and then what you just said and being able to think about how cool that's going to be to see it like all play out.
And the short story is just sort of like the bare bones about what this actually is.
Yeah,
I
that
would
would make
say
sense.
I
Yeah,
would say that there's a lot. There's more characters. There's more things
sure.
going on.
Yeah,
There's more depth. I think. Well, I mean, in a short story, you can only get
you
so
have
much
to
depth
be,
in
yeah,
it. So
right. It has to be kind of like shallow, so to speak, because you're trying to tell a whole story in very little words. Um, well, cool. So, have you already started filming? You have a filming date?
so we're hoping to start filming on February 22nd.
Okay.
I'm doing this thing a little bit differently than I usually do. I'm
Okay.
trying to go into it. Um, I don't want to say more prepared because that sounds like I didn't prepare for my other projects, but I'm trying to prepare for it differently.
Okay.
I'm trying to do things in ways which are maybe a little bit more typical for filmmaking.
Okay.
I never really did the whole storyboarding thing before.
Okay.
I'm a terrible artist, so that's one of the reasons. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know what I want, but I don't really always know what the space looks like, because in New York City, unfortunately, when you rent a space, you don't always get to see it until you get in there to film in it. So it's kind of hard to have a shot list. It's kind of hard to know what you want to do
Sure.
until almost the moment, really. Um, but with this, because we're renting a location, I'm
Mhm.
actually traveling next week to see it and
Oh,
make sure that I like it before I rent it. And I'm going
mhm.
to check it out. I'll have an
Yeah.
idea about the lay of the land. And
Mhm.
then I'm going to work with the director of photography to put together an actual shot list and storyboard, so that way we know what we're doing before we get there. And that's kind of exciting to try something very different. For anyone who follows my journey as a filmmaker, I'm always trying to do something different and elevating what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what I've done over the years, I'm proud of everything I've done, but I think you can see sort of an escalation in terms of the technical product when or as things go along, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because that's probably a great segue. Because one of the things I was curious about, because of all the, with your previous projects, what are you taking with you to that you've learned,
Hmm.
from, aside from, obviously approaching being able to plan it a little bit more in depth, it feels like, based on what you're saying, because you'll actually get to see the space, and you're that in that sense. But what about just things that you might have learned from
Well,
previous
some of
projects?
that's I think I've tried to do that a lot with this project. What did I learn when I made A Taste of Youth? What did I learn when I made The
You
Brooklyn
did the
Butcher?
Brooklyn
And how
Butcher.
can I do this so the quality that I liked from those two movies is maintained, but also everything I was like, I wish I could have done this differently. I can do it differently. So
Yeah.
I'm consciously doing that with this project, and
Okay.
um, we'll see how I succeed. But some of the things I've done is in the writing out to begin with.
Oh, okay.
I often write more than necessary sometimes, because I love the people that I work with and I want to give them as much screen time as possible.
Aw, yeah.
So I write extra stuff that isn't necessary. I put more characters in than are
Okay.
needed. And so I think with this, I was very conscious. I said, this is going to be a story with 5 characters,
Okay.
and then even from there, it blossomed into a few more characters, but they're all, I think, vital for what I'm trying to tell now.
Sure.
Everything is, and I'm not adding extra scenes for them just to make sure they get more screen time.
I
It's
gotcha. Yeah.
so I set out to be very, very tight with the script, because
Mhm.
I noticed that one of the things that I got responses about with A Taste of Youth and The Brooklyn Butcher was how long the film was, which I don't think an hour and 45 minutes is very long, but in horror, apparently what the thing for horror now is a tight 70-75. So that's what they want is a nice tight short film. So unless
Yeah.
you're doing Scream or something like that, or
And then it
Terrifier.
can be 3 hours.
Yes. Or if A24 is producing it, and then it can be forever.
Jesus.
So
And then they'll release an extended cut where it's really 6 hours.
exactly.
Looking at you,
But
Midsummer. Jesus.
but we but with indie horror, they want it to be short, because if you're gonna try to do
Interesting.
festivals, they want to stick as many in there as possible, and that's what you can get with a 75-minute movie. You can get a chance to do that as opposed to an hour 45.
Sure.
So on the page, I made sure that I started with I stopped at around 70 pages,
Okay.
and then I did some rewrites. I got to like 76,
Mhm.
and then I did some more rewrites, and I think I got to 84 at the moment, and that's
Okay.
where I'm stopping. But I'm very happy with that length, and that's probably the shortest thing I've ever written in terms of feature film.
Oh,
A Taste of Youth, I think, was about 110 pages, maybe a little bit
okay.
under that.
Okay.
And Brooklyn Butcher, as I think I maybe mentioned to you, but I'd certainly mentioned to other people, Brooklyn Butcher started out as a TV series, and then I
Yeah.
moved it into a film. So,
Yep.
I don't actually have a full page count for that, because
It was
every
right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
But that's sort of what I started with right there, was like being tighter and more focused, and being
Okay.
less more conscious of that fact, being more conscious of how can I only use what I need.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me that I've taken and put into this project.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think when you've done is and again, I'm not a filmmaker. I say this all the time because I would love to be, but I'm not. I don't think I have it in me. But I always am always amazed at what people are able to create, right? Especially in the indie world of creating horror movies. And I think that's pretty much the general consensus, because when you start doing anything new, there's going to be bumps and things you didn't predict, things you didn't really think about. And so it's always interesting to see the things that stick out to your head of like, okay, I
Mhm.
need to focus on, these are the things that I need to do differently this time, or whatever. It's always interesting to hear that.
And there were moments in A Taste of Youth that I wrote where it very much was, it felt like TV at times because of how I wrote it and how I pictured like filming it and everything. And
Yeah.
that's because I mean I'd done TV for almost 10 years at that point. So
Yeah.
so I was more used to that. And
Yeah.
I didn't consciously think of translating it differently to a
Sure.
different because even though it's the same kind of thing, it's also very different. So
Yeah.
so with this again, I was very conscious, like, am I telling a story that is a feature film? And I
Mhm.
was, and I am, and I made sure that
Yeah.
everything I did, every scene sort of led to the next point. I had a lot of thoughts about transitions that I didn't think about when I was writing my other films. I'm
Okay.
thinking about how am I going to transition from one shot to the next? Am I putting in those moments of B-roll that need to be there in the script so that way when I'm editing it, I know going forward that there's a moment of like a break basically or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Um,
yeah, so it was a lot of what I've done is on the writing side to prepare for the changes that I need to do.
yeah. Yeah. And for this one, you are crowdfunding,
Yes.
which, no shocker here, the link for that's going to be in the description for the episode, as well as where you can find Joshua and all his stuff. But yes, so is this, I may know the answer to this, I can't quite remember. Is this the first time you're crowdfunding for a film?
This isn't the first time I'm crowdfunding, but this is certainly the first time I'm asking for a more realistic budget for the
I
movie.
see. Okay.
Um, in the
Okay.
past, I've always crowdfunding is hard. I think everyone's going to say that. I mean, that's a very profound statement.
And
Crowdfunding is
I know
hard,
that, having never done it myself, I know it's hard. So yes, but you're right. Yeah, go
but
ahead.
it's hard because I hate doing it. I hate asking people to help because I don't want to. Part of it's, I think, imposter syndrome. I think it is. I think very much it's like, well,
That's
why would
valid.
people give me money to make my movie? Because
Yeah.
I'm not Stanley Kubrick. Well, nobody's Stanley Kubrick. He's dead. But why I'm not James Gunn. There we go. We'll go with that one. He's alive right now. So uh but I'm not, and but I'm also not. I mean, there's
Yeah.
I
I get it.
think that it's hard for me sometimes to forget that people do find a great deal of value in the things that I make, and I
Yeah.
discovered this when people actually bought my book. I was surprised that I didn't think people were going to do that. I guess something about me just thought, well, no one's ever going to want to pay for something I make, so why would they do that? But they did, and I've had people donate in the past to the movies, and
Mhm.
I have a Patreon, so people do support me there. But for whatever it is, when I go down to it, I'm like, I just think I feel bad, and I feel
I
like
get it.
I'm not I'm not worthy of it, I guess, of your support. But this time, I said to myself, I want to do this right, and I'm trying to. All of the decisions I make this time are trying to do it right. So I
Yeah.
am asking for a more realistic budget this time, so that way I can afford things that I always tried to skimp on in the past, where I was like
Yeah.
cutting corners or trying to make something. Um, Trying to make more with less, and you always will. I mean, indie filmmaking is always about making more with less.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Um, but this is about this time. I'm trying to do a little bit more with a little bit more. So
No, for sure. Well, and I know this, that this doesn't really change anything, because I think how we are as individuals about those sort of things doesn't really change. That's why I actually never even push our Patreon, because I'm like, ugh. Like it's the same thing. And so, in as far as like the feelings of like not wanting to like ask or push or whatever, but I think that what I tried to tell myself and what I would tell you as a friend and as someone who works with you is that the people who are in the community really genuinely do want to support indie creators. And I'm always like amazed, like, and for me, knock everything over. For me, I had physical therapy for the first time today, and it is apparently very irritated my surgery mark. So I'm like trying to fidget. Sorry. But anyway, so like I'm always like not exaggerating. I cry every time somebody posts a picture of a t-shirt they bought from our website. I'm like, because to me, it's like, why? Like, what would you? But then I think about like creators that I support or books that I buy or projects I try to back if I can or merch that I buy if I can. And I think about it and I'm like, well, I do it. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that,
No, my gosh, when people do like the first
yeah.
time I got every time I get fan art, I'm like, this is amazing. Somebody sat down and drew
Oh my
characters that I
God.
created, and just I am I wow, somebody
I'm
did
not even
this.
tearing up listening to you.
It is
It's so great.
it's so incredible. And I know that there's
Aw.
no reason for me to feel this way because
Mhm.
um and not that they mean anything, but I mean I've won awards around the world. Like I'm a filmmaker, but something about it sometimes you're always like, but are you really? And
Yeah.
that's so hard sometimes.
Yeah, I will say to that, I do think on the one side, it does keep people humble though, right? Because then
Yes.
I think people who don't just go, "Ugh, yeah, I am, or, like that kind of attitude. I think those are the people who lose sight of the value of what they're doing and the impact
Yeah.
it has on other people. So I always feel like it says something about somebody who's like, wow, like every little, like for all of those things, like a piece of fan art to mean that much, I think just goes to show like who you are as a person and how much you care about what you do. I think that's valuable.
And I was talking about this last night about indie filmmaking because you're probably you might not remember this, but in like the late 90s and early 2000s there were just so many little movies, especially little queer movies, like
Oh,
they probably cost like $100,000 to make or something,
yeah.
which again, that's a lot of money. I'm not saying that's not,
I know what you mean, but
but
in the broader
they're like
scheme,
ridiculously low budget films, like
sure.
that had like Tori Spelling in them and people like that.
Mhm.
Nev
Yeah.
Campbell's brother,
Yeah.
Chris Campbell,
Mhm.
and there was just a whole bunch of those for like a good 10 years, maybe 15, and then they just disappeared because Hollywood moved towards blockbusters, and so now you either get a blockbuster or you get an independent film, and you get nothing in between. And I think very much that we're starved for those really low budget films that say something that give you
Yeah.
room for characters to look to feel something with, to connect with,
Yeah.
because you don't really connect with some of these most blockbuster characters you don't connect with.
No, you're right. They're
You
mass
just don't.
produced. Yeah.
They're mass produced. There are moments where you're like, I am so glad. Like I know Black Panther is a great example of a movie that meant a lot to people, and they saw themselves represented in that, and
Yeah.
that's
No,
a wonderful
yeah,
thing.
for sure.
But for every
No,
movie like that, you're
there's a
getting
thousand
a
that are,
thousand other blockbusters that don't really do that kind of thing.
yeah.
But and that's what we're missing in the sphere of entertainment. And that's where I think as time goes by and Hollywood
Mhm.
doubles down on these blockbusters,
Mhm.
independent films are where it's going to be that people are going to turn to more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I say this often, but it's because I truly believe it and I mean it when I say it. The last, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 years that I have done like my top horror movie list for the year, like of new releases. I got the big budget, the big production companies, their movies aren't making that list. It's the indie projects. And it's because I think, to your point, I just watched an indie film the other day. We're not talking about that one, obviously, for the episode, so I won't go down too deep into that rabbit hole. But there are movies, indie movies, that I will watch or find or be introduced to or whatever, that heal parts of my trauma,
Mm-hmm.
that make me have these self-realizations, these like, and this, I mean, and it's just these very deep level emotional feelings of things that I'm not getting from cheap jump scares and seeing the same story 60
Mm-hmm.
times, and it's, I think, and I say that to say that I agree. I think that we need more of those things, because I think that those are the stories that we are missing, because we're getting the same regurgitated shit over and over again, right? And it's weird to walk out of a movie and feel changed, and I don't do that when I go see big production come, even ones I like. That doesn't mean I don't
Yeah.
like them,
No,
but
I know what you mean.
yeah,
Absolutely.
but to your point, they don't resonate the same.
And to bring it back to the contract, I mean the movie that I'm making, the movie that I'm planning to make, is by far the queerest and kinkiest thing I've ever made, I think. It's going to push the envelope in terms of what I've done. It's going to push the envelope in terms of what people are usually comfortable with seeing from, specifically from fat people on screen. And
Yeah.
and for those of you who haven't met me before, I talk about being a queer fat positive artist.
Yes.
So I use the word fat in ways that maybe other people are not comfortable with, but
Yeah.
I think there's no reason to use it. Not to use it rather.
I know what you meant.
And I'm not ashamed of or embracing the word or anything. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but as far as this movie goes, I mean, there's just going to be things that you just don't have never seen before. I think from people who look like me, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really so excited to make it, especially. And I don't want to bring up last week, but or I'm not sure when this is going to air, so I don't want to bring up Tuesday, November 5th. But especially in the light of that, it's so important for me to double and triple down on the content that I want to make, the films that I want to make, which
Yeah.
are queer and celebrates queer fat
Yes.
sex voices,
Mm.
voices about expressing your sexuality, your identity, and looking for what you need out of life. And in this movie, the characters are all looking. They're all lonely individuals who are lost and alone and needing to find ways to connect and doing it all wrong. But they're trying.
That's relatable though, right?
They've
Like,
got a lot of heart.
that's so relatable. No, I love that. I think, and so you're talking about hopefully starting to film in on February 22nd. Do you have like a wrap date planned, or
March
just
2nd. So
what?
we're hoping to do well. One of the things again is I wrote short so that way I could film in short
It's gonna be
days.
quite concise.
So we'd roughly be filming about 10 pages a day, which is my usual number of pages that I
Oh,
film.
okay. So it's not okay. Okay.
It's really not. It doesn't sound as crazy as it sounds. With A Taste of Youth, which was a longer movie, I filmed that in 11 days. So
Okay.
I'm
Seems like
thinking
such
I
a
can film this in about 9 days, and
okay.
I'll have a really great. Also, that's why it's so important we go into it with a good strong storyboard and a good strong set of people prepared. And it's also really important that I have fewer actors, so that I have fewer people I have to worry about in terms of lines, fewer moments for drama that could come up where somebody is sick suddenly. I mean, again, it could still happen, but hopefully it
No,
won't.
yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds very short, but I love that you're just like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And is your plan, let's see, in March? Yeah, that's kind of, are you planning on doing festivals or?
Um, I mean, I'll probably try for some festivals. I will be honest. I didn't get the reception I thought I would with A Taste of Youth in the festival circuit. I thought I'd get a little bit more love. We did just win an award at a festival
Yeah, I saw,
for A Taste
yeah,
of Youth. So that I mean, I'm very grateful for that.
sure.
I don't think that we'll be ready for the festival circuit.
Oh, okay.
Because if it's in March, practically speaking, it probably won't be ready till around December at the,
Did you
at the
still to,
earliest. So
yeah.
it could be ready earlier, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush it. So
No, for sure. Yeah. And do you have somebody that's gonna do the words escape me, the gore, like the body horror stuff? You have like
I
somebody
have
specific?
I have our in-house special effects person, Paula Zulis, He's going to do most of it, but we're thinking of bringing somebody in for one particular moment that so that way Paul can focus on other things and not have to focus on everything. So we're thinking of so again, that's us trying to think a little bit smarter and bring someone in to divide the tasks a little bit more than we usually do. So.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess when you're done, you also have to edit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do edit pretty quickly, actually.
Do you?
I
God, that
know
sounds so daunting to me.
editing
The
is
idea of editing. I'm like, I don't even like editing YouTube videos.
editing is editing can be really daunting. But the hard part about editing that's daunting, it's not the editing process itself. It's matching the audio to the video.
I think we talked about that a little bit with the Brooklyn Butcher. I felt like we had like maybe you were talking to Steve or some. I remember you saying something like that before.
I might have talked about that with A Taste of Youth because that was really hard.
Oh, okay, maybe it was that one.
That's the hard part. Really, is it just takes so much time. It does to just match audio and find it and then sync it up and you have to do that for every single scene and sometimes the clip that you're using is literally 2 seconds, but you need to match the audio to it so that way
it's gotta be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of love editing because that's when the story in many ways comes alive. I can shape things differently if I feel like, oh well, I didn't catch that performance on set and I wish I had gotten it differently, but I can make it different by shifting by changing the focus and cutting out some of the pause in between the line. I can bring the line closer together and have it delivered differently. So
yeah. With doing this, obviously having a place, is it like a house that you're renting, like an actual?
We are renting I get it's not quite a cabin, but it's not certainly not a state like this. I wish I were renting this place in the poster. But for some reason that doesn't exist. I don't know why. But we do have a lovely spot that I'm looking at. I'm hoping to go and
You said you're gonna
finalize everything.
Yeah.
And then I'll be able to also very, very fortunately, I have friends who own a cabin that is about 10 minutes away from the place we're looking at. So I'm going to be able to use their cabin as sort of like the green cabin, the green room.
Like
and
the home base.
A home base.
Yeah.
And then this cabin, everything,
awesome.
all the equipment will be kept there and
That'd be
everything.
great.
So I am very, very fortunate about that.
Yeah, because then you don't have to move all that stuff around and try to make it. Yeah.
You don't have to set up every day and then tear down every day. You just have to.
Yeah.
So that saves so much time right there. So again, saving time is the goal.
Yeah. And I guess because if this is, I always wondered this in general, like, because sometimes, especially when you're making a horror film or and there's like deaths and scary things that happen. What do you do if you're too close to somebody and you have to have characters scream really loud?
You just have to deal with it.
Like, so with this one, are you far enough away that like it won't be an issue?
Oh, you mean because of people around you?
Yeah, because of neighbors, people around you.
Neighbors and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant actors, like actors right next to each other.
They're like, get over it. Just
I'm like, you have to deal with it. It's just they scream in your face, and that's what it is.
No, I meant like if there's like neighbors and stuff, like
so
just because like what if somebody hears it, gets concerned, you don't know.
So in New York, I pick and choose what the screams are that I'm going to do. If I don't feel like it's a spot that we can safely scream, then I will be like, let's try to do like a lower scream, or let's phone it in a little bit and let's mark the scream, and then we will add it in post.
Which that makes sense.
I hate doing. But luckily this place doesn't look like it's, I am going to pay attention to who's around as well when I get there. But this place doesn't look like it's really surrounded by a lot of people. So that's another luxury that having this place will give us, is that we can be louder and scream and not have to worry about people like, what's going on?
No, cops showing up or something crazy.
Yeah. That would be a disaster, especially if we're covered in blood and everything.
I was just thinking the same thing. Got body parts hanging out everywhere. Like, you don't know. That's so true.
They're like,
That's
"What's going on?" And the cops will be like, "What's going on here?" It's like, "Oh, we're conducting a ritual. That's all." I mean,
don't mind us.
we're summoning Satan. It's what we do on the weekends.
No, no
It's
big
how we
deal.
survive. So.
I love it. I love it. Well, was there anything else you wanted to chat about or I don't know,
Um,
mention?
I mean, I think with this movie,
Mhm.
I'm really excited to. I keep saying that, but I really
I
am
can
excited. I
tell.
mean, this
I can
movie.
tell.
I always get really excited by every project that I do, but something about this movie, I'm just really, really eager to get to work on because I feel
Yeah.
like the people who are involved are really excited and passionate about it. And I'm gonna be I'm excited for all the new things I'm doing with it. I think that's probably what I'm most excited by. How I'm preparing for it is new for me, and I'm really excited by that aspect. It's a whole new experience, and so I'm happy that people will have a chance to get the fruits of that labor at some point. But
Yeah.
um, I am very excited also for the perks in the Indiegogo that we have going. Our crowdfunding has some really, really fun things that I've never done before. Related, I'm hoping to have. You can if you donate enough, you get Blu-rays of this
Yeah.
movie or other movies that we've made, and I've never done that before. Signed scripts, which I've never done before.
Love it.
I'm bringing things I've seen other people do, and people are happy to have, and
Yeah.
I'm bringing them to this because I used to think, oh, who wants a script signed by me? But I realized some people do. So I'm gonna make sure that happens. So.
I love that. Yeah.
And even if you donate for one perk, you could get a hardcover copy of my book, which I'm going to be putting out next year. So,
Oh yeah.
which I think I did backwards because most people put out hardcovers first and then paperback
Oh,
second.
do
But
they? I never pay attention to that stuff.
I do what I do. So I
Yeah.
never do anything the normal way. So
You be the trendsetter, not the trend follower.
exactly, that's me.
Well, cool. Well, I'm super excited for you. I love that you're able to keep creating because I think, I just think it's a voice and a message and that we just really need. So I'm glad that
Thank you.
your passion projects are just, they just flow and you're able to get a great group of people to work together to do it. And I can tell, you feel very, very good energy, high energy, excitement about it. And I'm really excited for you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I am going to be as kinky and queer as possible for the foreseeable future, so that way I can make my corner of the world that way as much as possible.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm excited. I can't wait to hear more about it when you're like start filming and especially once you get to see the location, as long as
I know. I am so excited to go up there, and because I've seen pictures of it, but it's going to be
it's
different in
different.
person, and it's going
Oh,
to be
I'm
like, oh,
sure.
I can see where this is going to happen now. So
No, for sure. I love that. That's gonna be awesome. I think it's gonna be a super fun day too when you go look at it.
I'm very very happy that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
Good, good. Well, thanks for coming by and chatting about it, the contract.
thank you
Um,
for having me and for asking about it. I mean,
always.
I hope that everyone who was listening is very excited for it as well. And I'm using the word excited a lot for some reason. I don't
You're
I
allowed.
guess
It's
it's
an
because I'm excited.
exciting thing. No, you should be. You should be using that word. And of course, and as previously mentioned, of course, Joshua's links will be in the description, but specifically the Indiegogo link where you can go check out perks and help fund the project. Yeah, no, I'm excited. It's awesome. I always love having you. You're welcome here anytime you want to talk about anything. Doesn't matter what it is.
Thank you. I will be by all the time. So
Good. Good. Um, well, cool. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out and checking out this episode of Indie Horror Filmmakers. Please go follow Joshua if you're not already. We hype him a lot, but that's for good reason. I promise you won't be disappointed. So, and yeah, so that's going to wrap up this episode. We hope everybody has a great rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.